Do you know about the Blood Island films? Have you heard about the Blood Island films? They were released by Hemisphere Pictures in the late 60s, and they featured beasts and babes and blood, and they're shot in the Philippines. And, well, let me tell you, Severin Films has just released the core Blood Island films on a new box set entitled Fear in the Philippines, the complete Blood Island films. Now, Severin has put these out a few times in the past. This is basically collecting them into one nice slipcase on 2 discs. Previously, they were spread across multiple discs. From what I've seen, the extras are the same on these discs. There might be one little nugget that wasn't on the previous releases, but otherwise, if you missed out on getting those that are now starting to go out of print, or you want to have a very slim profile on your shelf, this is here for you, and I'll go through the discs and what the movies are and all the extras and all that cockamamie now. First up, disc 1. 2 films per disc, 4 movies total. We get this in its Blu-ray, in case I didn't mention that. This is Terror is a Man from 1959. It's 90 minutes, black and white, 4:3, directed by Gerardo de Leon and Eddie Romero, who are the guys who really helmed all the films in this set, with Francis Lederer, Greta Thyssen, and Richard Derr. It's in English with optional English subtitles, and it opens with a title card that I will read. Warning, the picture you are about to see has a scene so shocking that it is necessary to forewarn you. We suggest that the squeamish and faint-hearted close their eyes at the sound of the bell and reopen them when the bell rings again. The management. I love ballyhoo like that. So anyway, this is basic story goes a little something like this. A man washes ashore on a remote island and finds that it is terrorized by like a panther-like creature. He meets up and is taken in by a doctor and his wife/nurse, who the man soon suspects know a bit more about this panther creature than they're letting on. It's a fun monster movie. It's a fun black and white monster movie that really could have been shot here. You know, if it had, the main cast are Caucasians in this film, and it looks and plays like an American horror movie of the 50s. This copy here looks and sounds great, and it's just like, it's a good, to me, like a good Saturday afternoon or late night kind of picture. And there, strangely though, being that it is shot in the Philippines, it might have been before this law went into effect, there is no Vic Diaz in this film. The extras are Man Becomes Creature interview with Hemisphere marketing consultant Sam Sherman, which was shot for the Machete Maidens Unleashed documentary, which is a great documentary that was done about all of the movies that were shot in the Philippines in the 60s and 70s into the early 80s, the explosion of action movies and horror movies and women in prison movies and stuff like that. So most of the extras, I'll quickly note, on the set were taken from the extensive interviews that were done for that documentary. They're not necessarily taken from that documentary, but you know, the filmmaker who made that interviewed all kinds of people for extended periods of time, and it's cool that that footage is able to be used somewhere else when, you know, otherwise it would just be sitting either on the extras. Some of it would be on the extras of that documentary, and otherwise it's just sitting in a vault somewhere. So if you don't know Sam Sherman, he was the guy who ran Independent International Pictures. He was a producing partner with Al Adamson and all those kind of movies that he made, and he is like a Samuel Arkoff. He's like a Roger Corman. He's a guy who was in the trenches of independent and cult driving kind of movies, horror, schlock, exploitation, you name it, in the 60s into 70s, and still is around, still is maintaining the Independent International Library, but he knows his stuff. His stories are amazing. I will say some of the discs on this set, I used to rent the discs through Netflix, or I used to buy them when they were on Alpha Video, and I used to always say, same with Al Adamson movies, I always said, I suffer through the movies so that I have context for the Sam Sherman commentaries, which are just amazing and fascinating. And that's true. If any time you can hear Sam Sherman talk about anything, it is worthwhile. So that's a 6-minute interview with Sam Sherman about the Terror is a Man. Dawn of Blood Island interview with co-director Eddie Romero, also from the Machete Sessions from 2010. That's 5 minutes. Terror Creature, also from the Machete Sessions. Interview with Pete Toombs, co-author of Immoral Tales. That's 3 minutes. When the Bell Rings, interview with critic Mark Holcomb. That's 2 minutes. I'll save time. I'll tell you when something isn't from the Machete Maidens recording sessions. The trailer is 1.5 minutes. Poster gallery is 3 minutes, which is just, and this is true of all the poster galleries on this set, they're filled with great old posters and press kits and ad mats and original documents from Hemisphere Pictures to people about, here's your investment, return on your investment if you're an investor, or here's how much this movie made at this select number of drive-ins over the course of its opening weekend. It's fascinating stuff. Some of it's a little hard to see. Luckily, I have a big TV, and if you pause it, you can kind of get close and squint and read it. If you have a smaller TV, I feel bad, but it's really, really cool. And that's The images are for both Terror is a Man and later when it was re-released as the retitled Blood Creature. Brides of Blood, this is still disc 1 from 1968. This is where the Blood Island movies really kind of come into play. But they're all not really, only the last two are really connected in any way, but share a lot of the same cast and location and vibe, and they all are, Blood Island. So it is in color, it's 4:3. They were all presented in 4:3. I don't know if that's really the optimal presentation of these. Watching them, I'm like, if you crop this, you probably could crop these to 185 and they'd still look okay, but they're presented in 4:3, just so you know. 97 minutes, and all the transfers look great. There's blemishes here and there, but they look really colorful, really sharp, and better than they ever did on tape or on the original DVD releases. It's 97 minutes, directed again by Gerardo de Leon and Eddie Romero, with John Ashley, who will become the star of this series from here on out, Kent Taylor and Beverly Powers, just some English Caucasian actors to put in the mix to make it feel a little less like a Philippines film, but when everybody else in the film is Filipino, it still kind of feels like a Philippines film. This is an American expedition to a remote Pacific island to investigate the effects of atomic radiation. It is a doctor, his young wife, and a Peace Corps volunteer. The doctor is Kent Taylor, his young wife is Beverly Powers, and the Peace Corps volunteer is John Ashley. They find natives contending with like man-eating plants and plants that have tendrils that move and strange creatures to whom naked virgins are sacrificed. So there's a little nudity in this film. The whole film is post-dubbed, but hey, what are you going to do? There is... So I used to joke, because I watched a lot of films that were exploitation films, 70s movies, Philippines films, that it seemed to have three things were required to get funding or to be able to be allowed to shoot a movie in the Philippines for a couple decades. You needed to have a rape in the film. You needed to have a little person, a dwarf, whatever the proper terminology is, a little person in the film, and you needed to have Vic Diaz in the film. This film nails 2 out of the 3 of those. Again, there is no Vic Diaz in this film, but it does have in the first 10 minutes an assault on a female and a little person in it. So bravo to the Philippines for having standards and sticking to them. This, again, looks amazing. The extras on this are an auto commentary from Sam Sherman, which is just the first 47 minutes of the film, and that's true of the next couple of these. He just talks up to a point and then stops, which is better than... I'd rather have 47 minutes in a row than an hour and a half of him letting minutes go by of saying nothing. Just I got a lot to watch and I got a lot on my plate. So his commentaries are always great. Jungle Fury archival interview with co-director Eddie Romero. That's 14 minutes. Here Comes the Bride, and that interview is not from Machete Maidens. Here Comes the Bride interview with Sam Sherman. That's 22 minutes. Beverly Hills on Blood Island, an interview with actress Beverly Powers. That's 7 minutes. That's seemingly not from Machete Maidens. Alternate Brides of Blood title sequence and a Jungle Fury title card, which are just, these films would get re-released and retitled to try to shake a little bit more flour out of that empty sack over the years. That's 1.5 minutes. A teaser trailer that's 37 seconds, which looks pretty rough from like a tape source. There's a trailer that's 2 minutes that's recreated, which I think is what they do for just about all of them on this set going forward too, is they take the original trailer, they keep the audio from it, but they cut in or they replace footage from the new transfer of the film to replace what a bad faded trailer looked like. So occasionally it'll cut to shots with text on screen and the image looks like what the rest of the trailer would have if they didn't do that. I don't love that practice, but it is what it is. That's 2 minutes, as I said. The poster and still gallery is 6 minutes. That's set to radio spots, which are great. Disc 2 is Mad Doctor of Blood Island from 1968, so the same year as the last film. 90 minutes, again, same directors. John Ashley returns, Angelique Pettyjohn, who you may know from multiple things, from a Star Trek episode to an Elvis movie to her later adult film career, and Ronald Remy. It's in English with English SDH subtitles. It is again 4:3. Story here is Pettyjohn is a woman on a boat. It's 90 minutes of Angelique Pettyjohn on a boat. And depending on who you are, that might be all you need. It is, she goes to a remote island in search of her father. She meets a doctor, John Ashley, who is, he decides to help her try to find her father. They find him. He's an alcoholic. Also on the boat is a former local coming back to try to get his mother away from this island because he doesn't like the place. He thinks he should get out of there. So it's sort of like two parallel groups of people that eventually, the church and the steeple thing. Unfortunately, there's a strange green-blooded creature going around that is killing and attacking people, and when the victims are found, they bleed green blood. That's a little weird. So together they all work to unravel the mystery before they can fall victim to this creature. And local Dr. Lorca, friend of the local man's mother, seems to be awfully casual about all these horrible things that are going on, and I wonder why. So Ashley is like John Ashley is a great suave He-Man hero. If you don't think you know John Ashley, he was in some of the Beach Party movies. He was in some AIP like Juvenile Delinquent movies. He was in a lot of stuff. If you don't know his face, you might know his voice because he was the producer and narrator to the opening of the A-Team. So he produced the A-Team, but he was also the narrator. You know, you just might need the A-Team. He was that voice. And it opens with the Oath of the Green Blood, which was something that Sam Sherman had shot later after the film was done, which was a gimmick that in theaters, everybody would be given these little vials of green blood. And if you repeated with the oath that crawled on screen of the green blood and you drank it, you wouldn't fall victim to the creature from this film. And that's a kick that they did that, and that's here. It was shot with a bunch of like kids of the soldiers at a local military base, of an American military base in the Philippines, because they wanted a bunch of people who looked like the audience that would be going to see this in America. So it's just this, it's a wonderful bit of ballyhoo that I love has been preserved. There's nudity in the first minute of this movie, so you know it's a quality production. It uses these vigorously pulsating zooms whenever anything scary is going to happen. And in the extras, one of the commentators said he knew as a kid seeing this that if it started to do that zoom, you might want to look away. And if you look back and it was still zooming, something scary was still going to happen. So it's sort of this movie's version of the fear flasher and the horror horn, although they never announced that up front. There is a brief shot of animal sacrifice in the movie, and it's gross. And if you're watching this movie and you see a flat surface and there's maybe a goat or a pig sitting on the flat surface, I might look away for about 60 seconds and then you won't have to see that because it's not great. But otherwise, this film looks amazing. Extras, commentary by Nathaniel Thompson and Howard S. Berger, which is great. Commentary by Sam Sherman, which again is only the first 50 minutes, but it's a great 50 minutes. Tombs of the Living Dead, another interview with Pete Toombs, co-author of Immoral Tales from Machete Made in Stock. A Taste of Blood interview with critic Mark Holcomb, that's 12 minutes. The Pete Toombs is 9 minutes. Mad Doctor of Blood Island interview with co-director Eddie Romero, that's not from Machete Maidens, that's 7 minutes. 3-minute trailer narrated by Brother Theodore, which is great. And again, it's that sort of recreated trailer. Poster and still gallery, 6 minutes set to the score. And then we have the final film on the set, Beast of Blood from 1970, 92 minutes. Just Eddie Romero going solo on this one with John Ashley, Celeste, Yarnall, and Eddie Garcia. Again, somehow these films got made. No Vic Diaz in any of them. I don't know how they did it. They must have had to grease some palms to not have Vic Diaz in these films. I like Vic Diaz, by the way. It's just that he's in like every film shot in the Philippines. It is in English with optional English SDH subtitles, 4:3, picks up seemingly right where Mad Doctor of Blood Island leaves off. Like Ashley is on a boat leaving the island, and I think he's leaving the island. Maybe he's going back to the island. I can't quite remember what the dialogue is. He's on a boat, and this creature that becomes the main creature from the film shows up and just starts kicking ass and taking names, and eventually the boat catches fire. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of this, but the boat catches fire and blows up, and Ashley finds himself back on Blood Island dealing with Dr. Lorca again, who he thought was dead, who has a hand in this creature, this beast, this titular beast of blood, and it's just more natives getting killed and green blood and people and a disembodied head being alive and mad scientists, and it's just schlocky drive-in glory, basically. The extras on this are a commentary by Sam Sherman, the first 55 minutes, so this is the longest of the commentaries in any of these, and he says in each of these, he is, and these were I think originally done for Alpha Video, the commentaries. He is looking to do a history of Hemisphere pictures. So in each one, he goes a little bit farther with that history with these movies in a row. So he says, I'll see you for the next history of Hemisphere on the next one. Celeste and the Beast interview with actress Celeste Yarnall, that's 12 minutes. Dr. Lorca's Blood Devils interview with actor Eddie Garcia from the film, that's 3 minutes. Super 8 digest version of the film. Back in the old days, before you could get home video, you could get copies of movies on Super 8 film for your home projector, and they would be either in little 3-minute reels or 200-foot reels or 400-foot reels or multiple 400-foot reels, and they'd be various durations and condensed versions of the movie. So this is like a one-reel version of the movie. I think this is a 200-footer, maybe a 400-footer, and it's color and in sound, and it's called Blood Devils, and it's a supremely condensed version of this film. Then you get the trailer that's 3 minutes. You get a radio spot that's 1 minute, which is a combo spot with Curse of the Vampires, and you get a 5-minute poster and still gallery. So let me show you the packaging. So this is repackaged. These discs have been out before by Severin with the same contents, but come in. Oh, it's nice packaging. You get a little bit of gloss, if you can see that on there, a little gloss. Hard shell case, slips to reveal that. So what you miss in not getting the individual discs is you don't get the individual artwork and the reversible covers with the alternate title artwork, but you also get the whole thing in one slim volume, front and back. And then nothing too fancy here, but the original artwork for these movies is fantastic too, especially The Beast of Blood. So that is the Fear in the Philippines, the complete Blood Island films collection by Severin, now in one slim volume on Blu-ray.